So here I am discussing autism again. These days, I don't really like to discuss it much on my YouTube channel. I've pretty much wiped most of my content related to that kind of stuff, except for a few videos here. Now, we're going to talk about autism being used as a personality enhancer or being portrayed as a catch-all for the various social issues that Gen Z struggles with. Having autism is not a personality quirk. It's a genuine condition. Diagnosis is very important. And because there is a path to diagnosis and a medical definition and a psychological definition of the thing, autism does need some gatekeeping in order to preserve the integrity and the definition of it, and to ensure that people who have autism are guided towards the correct and proper and researched tools that are available for those with autism. I was diagnosed with autism level 1, formerly known as Asperger's syndrome. So I'm on the low end of the spectrum. I'm able to provide for myself. I don't have a learning disability. But here are some of my struggles that caused me to eventually seek out psychological and therapy help, which eventually led to an autism diagnosis as an adult years ago. So, ever since I was a child, when I got my first MP3 player, I wore headphones essentially 24/7 throughout the tail end of elementary, through middle school, and through high school. I wore Bluetooth headphones around my neck that I would just put into my ears throughout the entire day. When I got home, I would continue wearing these headphones in my ear. When I slept, I would wear the headphones while I slept. And I generally hated not having something plugging my ears at all times. This resulted in me churning through headphones like crazy. I would break the headphones quickly because I used them so much. I would spend whatever little money I had as a kid on headphones. I would have multiple pairs of backup just in case one of them broke or something. And I continue that to this day. I wear my AirPods with the noise canceling pretty much all day. I wear them when I'm out, when I'm walking, grocery shopping, when I'm working, when I'm lying in bed, when I'm sleeping. I wear them all day. As a little kid, I went to the movie theater once, and we were watching a movie that had a lot of bass and a lot of noise to it. And I remember I don't know how to describe the feeling other than I freaked out. Not because of what I was seeing, but because of what I was hearing and the noise. I ran out of the movie theater and I ended up vomiting in the bathroom. And I didn't know why that was happening to me, but looking back, I believe that was an instance where I faced some really bad overstimulation. As an adult, I have a very strict daily routine. I do the same thing each day. I wake up, I work, I use the computer, and then I sleep. I've picked up some hobbies like gardening and bird watching recently, and I do them at fixed intervals throughout the day, but I generally repeat the same actions over and over, and I generally eat the same foods over and over and over again. I don't like to go out, not because I hate people. I just I'll talk about it more later, but I don't like to go out. I've lacked any meaningful friendships for over a decade now. I have very limited amount of numbers in my cell phone, and this doesn't really bother me per se. However, as a human being, I am still a social creature. Having autism doesn't mean you're not a social creature anymore. You're still a social creature, but you are deficient in some ways in the mannerisms and the tools and the communication skills needed to actually foster these social relationships. Your body and your mind, in a certain sense, desires of you sociality and social relationships, but at the same time, your mind, because of autism, is a bit incompatible with the typical ways in which people socialize, the social requirements, the social maintenance tasks you must do, and so on and so forth. To get back to going outside, what prompted me to really sit down and make this video was, it was a time where I was trying to celebrate a loved one. And we had decided to head out to the mall. And within about 10 minutes, I became completely overstimulated by being outside at the mall. I first tried to control it by putting in my AirPods, which was, to the other person, a bit disrespectful to put in noise-canceling headphones when you're out with them. But I tried to do it because I wanted to slow down or stop what was about to happen. However, I can get overstimulated not just by sound, but by sight. And the sight of all of the lights and all of the people eventually, within about 30 minutes, became too much for me. I found it difficult to think. I found it difficult to speak. My speaking was reduced to just noises like affirmations, or like me saying no. My sentences were short and curt and came off as dismissive. I became irritated and overstimulated, essentially against my will. I wanted to have a good time with this individual and to celebrate them, but my brain and my body were reacting in a way that was making me shut down, finding it very difficult to speak, to express emotions, to think, and so on and so forth. And eventually we went home and I walked to the car that I had taken in silence and went home in silence as I tried to become less overstimulated. I didn't freak out. I didn't become aggressive or anything, but I just shut down. I have found that wearing sunglasses, even indoors, will allow me to become less overstimulated. As I record this video here, I'm wearing sunglasses because I find that it helps me speak more fluidly, it helps me pick my words better, and so on and so forth. So I'm not able to produce the kinds of social results that I want. A lot of things that are required of me socially do not occur to me naturally in social situations. I must logically calculate what to do, and oftentimes in social situations are simply too fast for that. So after social events or social situations, I wound up feeling very stupid or very childish. It's often that I will lie in bed at night thinking, what's wrong with me? Why do I just do the same thing over and over each day? Why do I feel no inherent desire to go out and socialize, yet I am suffering the negative effects of not doing so? Why, when I try to go out and perform these social activities, I face failure after failure after failure, and overstimulation on top of it all? So that is what I face in results to level 1 autism. I don't have a learning disability. I'm able to work, but I'm not able to work well in an office. I'm not able to just be out and about in society without plugging my ears often or wearing sunglasses often. So there's been a trend on social media of self-diagnosis of various psychological disorders. The laymanification of psychological or therapeutic language has spread all across social media, and over-validation is a big problem. So I'm going to talk specifically about women self-diagnosing, since that's what I have more experience in. Now, I'm not going to sit here and bash the women doing this. I think I have a pretty good grasp as to why it's happening. Women have a peculiar relationship with medicine and with our bodies. People in the medical community and just people in general can be pretty dismissive and excusatory in regards to women's complaints about pain or medical issues. They often shrug it off as women just naturally experience more pain and struggles in regards to their health in life. There's not a lot of care or empathy shown for women who are facing similar struggles that a man might have. For instance, an autistic little girl might be viewed as being bashful or shy or quiet, and that's it. Whereas an autistic boy being equally as reclusive might be viewed as a genuine problem deserving of further investigation. Pile on top of that the social expectations of women and girls to be more socially refined and more socially complex at younger ages, to be well-mannered or more empathetic than boys of their same age or than men of their same age. This can make a lot of women feel as though they aren't woman enough. They aren't feminine enough, and that something biologically must be wrong with them to cause them to have this feeling. On top of that, Gen Z, additionally, is a uniquely socially deficient generation. Gen Z is a generation statistically that has the loneliest young adults that we've ever measured, with women specifically reporting more loneliness than men. And the loneliness epidemic among women gets less attention than it does for the loneliness epidemic for men. It can cause, again, women who are experiencing this severe loneliness to feel as though they are outliers, that there is something biologically to blame for their loneliness, and so on. A non-insignificant amount of Gen Z struggles with face-to-face social interaction due to the lack of practice, due to our over-reliance on internet and web-based socialization, due to the lack of opportunity. A lot of the spaces for young adults to socialize are non-existent, and due to just the general anxiety that anyone faces when they socialize, especially with the other gender. Gen Z is also, from a very young age, a generation accustomed to being analyzed on social media for very minute things and very minute differences. So, because of all this, you could make the assertion that there's desire among Gen Z to not be in social situations at all due to the overly stressful nature of everything that I've just stated. And all of this could lead to a generation that overestimates their likelihood of being introverted and increases their rates of social anxiety, depression, loneliness, psychological distress, psychological conditions, and then, as a result, self-diagnosis. There's a community on Reddit called Autism in Women. And I was a member of this community for some time, but I eventually left because I began to notice this over-validation issue that is moving across various social media communities today. I started noticing that something was wrong when I started to feel uncomfortable with disagreeing with self-diagnosed individuals in that subreddit and on social media at large. For example, you might see a post in that subreddit or anywhere else, I'm just mentioning this subreddit specifically, that might say, I get really annoyed by the sounds of someone chewing next to me. And the responses in the comments section will be like, yeah, that happens to me too. Yeah. And everyone will be saying yes, and they will all together take it as a sign that they are all equally autistic. In reality, I think most human beings find the sound of someone eating pretty distasteful. There might be some specific cultures where it's not viewed as distasteful, but I think by default, the sound of someone chewing next to you is pretty annoying. We see it also with hyperfixations. Autistic people can at times, be very sluggish and have a lot of autistic inertia in regards to certain tasks or task switching, but then on one very specific task that just scratches their brain the correct way, they're hyper focused on it. A stereotype for young boys is like trains or dinosaurs, right? An autistic child, little boys tend to like trains and dinosaurs, but an autistic child who's not socially inclined might be much more hyper focused on trains and dinosaurs and collecting them and talking about them and playing with them to an extreme degree. In today's world, where we're all on the internet and we all spend a lot of time in our bedrooms, it's very easy to develop hobbies that you hyperfixate on and that you talk about a lot online, because those are ways of socializing. It doesn't mean that you're autistic because you collect, vinyl CDs, or because you spend all of your time drawing or painting, or because you listen to a particular song that you like over and over. That doesn't mean you're autistic. It doesn't mean you're stimming if you shake your hands or if you make a certain noise or you have a specific, mannerism that you do repeatedly. Some people just have their little rituals and their little tics. So I say all of this to say that there is a crisis of authenticity as it relates to diagnoses. There's a lot of self-diagnosing, and a lot of self-identification moving about in society. And I believe that a large portion of it is due to the social deficiencies of this generation as a result of the way our society is set up, both geographically and socially, and as a result of the way in which technology is changing our lives, specifically the internet. So I hope this video made sense and it was a bit cathartic for anyone else who might have been having the same or similar thoughts as me. Autism is not an identity. It's a genuine condition. It kind of, like, I hate it. I really do hate having it. Sometimes I'm a little, let's say, distrustful of my diagnosis, believing that I might not have it. But when I look at the way I react to sounds, my ears, my social situation, I think it's beyond what an average Gen Z faces, to the point that there is something biological going on, which was confirmed by my diagnosis. So yeah, thanks for listening. If you have any tips for reducing overstimulation when you are outdoors, let me know, because that is probably one of the biggest hindrances to my social life, is the difficulty I face with dealing with noises and with sights and sounds and all of that.